So hello again everybody, welcome to another video where I can proudly announce that I've finally finished the elevators. I've probably mentioned this before, but they were a bit of a pain in the arse. I think a lot of other builders feel the same way about these elevators. They encompass a bit of everything, and they're fiddly, and there's two of them, so yeah. They do take quite a bit of time. Certainly much more complex in terms of their construction versus the some of the smaller models. Certainly the RV7s and that kind of line, where they're just one piece, where these are many more pieces. So hey ho. Here I am putting the spar in. So this was after them having been inspected. My inspector did pick up on two rivets, which are the ones which hold the nut plate for the main bolts, which is the hinge essentially. Is it the eye bolt? I can't remember what they're called. Two of the heads of the rivets were the wrong way around, and he thought it would become an issue later on because there's a jam nut which needs to go on, and so it would just potentially create an issue. So before putting the spar in, why not just turn them the right way around? So did that. To keep him happy, obviously, and yeah, it was a case of going through and riveting that spar in and getting everything as smooth as possible, and trying to squeeze every last micro knot out of this airplane. And of course, you've got the other side to do, and then you've got the other elevator to do, but I'm not going to bore you with that. Thankfully, I think it took me maybe a day or two to get those done, but we moved on to something else, which was closing in this the tip rib. It's amazing how floppy it all seems, and then when you start riveting it all together, it suddenly becomes extremely rigid and aeroplane-like. It's quite impressive. These were a bit fiddly. Some of these hard to reach places. You can see me there with the hand squeezer. I find that the hand squeezer can get into much tighter places. It has kind of scratched up a little bit of my work, but it's okay. We'll touch it up. But yeah, getting the squeezer in there to get some of those hard to reach rivets, and then some of the some which you've got to do by hand as well. I don't have much footage of me doing these leading edges. These were an absolute nightmare. On the rudder, it's a piece of cake because you can have that pole or whatever you're using protruding out of either side. But on the elevators, you've got the elevator horn in the way, you've got the tip rib in the way. And just out of sort of sheer frustration, I didn't really video much of it. It was a pain in the arse. I cut up my hands a lot. But it was a case of getting the pole on there and using some vice grips. So guys, here's a little clip on the lead weights on the elevators. The way I decided to do these was to, well, first of all, follow the plans in terms of the dimensions that it wants you to cut off of each one of these blocks. Then after cutting them, what I did was I weighed them all. So I've got my drug dealer scales here. Weighed them all. I found the lightest one, which happened to be around about 485 grams. And the reason I found the lightest one is because obviously you can't add material, can you? So I found the lightest one, and then what I did was using the holes which are there and using the screws which you're supposed to use, I basically put one over the top of the other, put the bolts through, and then you could clearly see that the heavier blocks had a little bit more meat along the edges. So I went round, filed them all nicely so that they matched, but more importantly, they all match in weight. So don't know if that's overkill, maybe it is, but that's how I decided to do it. Now the next question is, two of these blocks require this kind of raised element here that needs to be shaved down to a certain height. So happen to have a CNC machine which I haven't used in a while, so I might put it in there and then just do a couple of passes, gradually going down till I get the height that I need. Failing that, I mean, I realise a lot of people don't have a CNC machine. I might be able to use the pillar drill, so putting an end mill in there, bring it down to a particular height, and then just kind of going along and whilst the drill, this is a bit dangerous obviously, but whilst the bit's moving, just move it backwards and forwards and just trim off till I have the appropriate dimensions. Haven't decided how I'm going to do it, but I'll let you know. So the way I ended up doing it was a kind of hybrid of both. So I've used the CNC machine and I've used the controller to adjust the height of the spindle essentially. But instead of going and programming tool paths and, you know, going down that whole route, I basically used the machine to adjust the height, and then I manually kind of slid it through up and down. And actually it's a better machine to use because the spindle on this could do 10,000 RPM. It's got a single flute end mill on there. I'm sure that, I mean, the pillar drill would have done it just fine. It's way more powerful, but it's a lot slower. So this is the better tool for it. And as you can see, started off with that, and I've ended up with, this is one block. Now the top, it looks rough, but it's not actually that rough. And I'm going to go over that as well with a bit of with a file just to smooth it all off. But that's the final product. So I'm currently working on the second block, and with the motor on, all I'm doing is just going around and just slowly skimming off layer by layer till I achieve the final height. So yeah, hope that gives you guys some ideas. So I was pretty happy with the way they turned out in the end. I didn't get footage of me bolting them on, but I imagine you, well, I'll leave that to your imagination anyway, bolting on the lead weights. I haven't torqued them down actually, there's something to talk about, because the lead's obviously quite soft, so every time you go near them with the you know, with a socket, you can always squeeze them a bit more. So I've kind of squeezed them. I'll leave them for a bit, squeeze them a bit more, and then get that final torque. Now these corner pieces here were a pain in the arse, and you'll see me kind of coming to a moment of clarity, let's put it that way, shortly, where I kind of explain myself. I think I went down the road of treating these the same way I treated the rudder, which in the end was a bit of a waste of time. But yeah, again, you'll see me explaining myself very shortly. So here's a little lesson learned. For these little tight gaps here, these hard to reach rivets here where they come really close together, in the rudder it had you setting up a bit of a back rivet arrangement essentially, and you use a chisel and you hit the back of the chisel to sort of get in there. I tried that on the first elevator, and it's annoying and fiddly, and it doesn't always work. And the skin, you need to have the skin pressed really hard against the steel plate in order to make sure that that head is sat in there properly, so that you get a flush finish, which didn't always happen. So drilled it out multiple times, tried different things, rammed the squeezer in there and got some of them done with the squeezer. You know what? Sometimes it's easier just to stick to this. And to be honest with you, this is just an experience thing. I'm so used to using my tungsten bucking bar that I thought these little bits of steel, I mean, this is a very thin piece of steel, works perfectly. So sometimes, yeah, you can overcomplicate things, but you don't need to. So there we go. That took me 2 hours, 2 hours to do that. This took me, how long did that take me? 15 minutes. So with that behind us, let's do something really messy and horrible. There's got to be a better way of doing that, but I haven't thought of a better way. So if somebody can think of a better way or knows a better way, please tell me. But yeah, here we are doing the messy work. So these are the, well, foam ribs which go in that trailing piece of the elevator, just ahead of the trailing edge wedge. There's a little hack that I'm quite proud of. I got myself a toothpick, stabbed it in the end of the rib, and that way you can kind of maneuver it into your little gap there. I was quite proud of that. That was a really handy way, instead of trying to get it in there with your fingers and then you get glue everywhere and it's just a nightmare. So that worked quite nicely. They went in. Obviously the area that they're sat on is an area that's unmasked. Applying the glue onto the trailing edge wedge. Now I know that some of the manufacturers of these products have various, they're basically paint rollers, if you like, you put the glue on the roller and then you sort of roll it on. Vans says that you can apply up to a maximum of, I think it's 1/32 of an inch thickness of adhesive, so I can't, you can kind of lather it on, but some people use a brush, some people use a wooden knife in my case. I came up with a way better way on the next elevator, which again I'm quite proud of. The way I decided to do it, instead of with a wooden knife or whatever, I think instinct just took over, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to stick my fingers into this glue and I'm just going to massage it on, and it worked so nicely because it was so easy to just squidge it around and move it around and apply a nice even coat. So that's it. Trailing edge wedges glued in as instructed, and then a load of weights placed on top to keep everything nice and squished, and it's looking pretty good. Everything looks nice and as it's supposed to. Wiped off the excess, there wasn't too much, and it's hard to see in the camera, but it's all looking nice and straight. I'm pretty happy with it. So only thing to do now is just wait. It's already been about 2 days actually. Let it all cure properly, and then come back and do all the riveting. And so yeah, after a week or so, I think came back to rivet the trailing edge. So yeah, you got to clean out all the glue. Initially started with the number 40 drill bit, and then I can't remember the drill bit size, but I think it might be, is it number 36, the next size up, which they want you to they want you to have as part of the RV10 build process. So I basically got that slightly larger drill and cleaned out the glue really nicely. Actually, I think it was a number 36. It just perfectly, it was just snug against the holes that you made there, and yeah, it was just a case of going through. It was quite straightforward, really. I'm not going to bore you. You've seen this before. You half set them with the flush set, and then you come through with the fancy Cleveland tool set, which you can see, and just slowly kind of massage them into the final size. So kind of going along and doing all of them, and then inspecting them, and then just tweaking them a bit more. It's really important to have that zip tie on the end. I don't know if you can see it on my yoke there, because then that keeps those dies exactly perpendicular to the to what you're working on. So that's what you want. I see people using them online and they're rotating all over the place, and it's like, it's a bit scary, really. But anyway, it came out really nice. Really happy with the finish on these as well. Again, it's all about those micro knots. And here's those tabs which I nearly destroyed if you remember back to my earlier videos, they're now done and dusted, and I can live happily ever after, I hope. So here we go. Finally, the elevators are also finished. So trailing edge wedge all riveted in, which went pretty quickly actually. It wasn't too difficult. Having done it once before and having all the correct tools, yeah, it went together pretty quickly, and I'm really happy with the finish, all nice and smooth. So that is all done. Now on to the tail cone.